Hey,
Uh, Awesome. We are live on YouTube. Hello, Internet. Welcome to another episode of Website Redesign, Node.js edition. Um, yeah, so we have a good chunk of stuff to talk about uh, today because there's actually been a lot of movement in the past week. So we will uh, dive right into the agenda here. This is issue number one. The agenda is issue number 133 in the website redesign repo. And we're gonna kick it off with didn't come from ComCom anymore, but kick it off with issue 134. This is more of just a visibility issue, and also Rachel for just a ping. I literally just threw this up before the meeting, so don't worry about it. But this is I kind of synthesized in a rather not too pretty way, but the content's all there. Are the discussion about foundation website content that we had at the end of the last meeting. We walked through, just as a refresher, we walked through all the content on the foundation website that we could find and kind of flagged stuff as either keep or cut, keeping in mind that there is a foundation merger going on. So a lot of the foundation specific content will probably disappear. The goal is not to have this all in for the first version of the site. This will probably be follow up, but we should keep in mind where it fits into the IA structure. And by the time we get to it, presumably, according to Bootstrap timeline, the foundation or the merger will have gone through, and the new foundation is going to get its own branding, its own site, presumably. So yeah, Rachel, if you want to run this like content list by anybody who might have a vested interest in it, I'd love to see if we're missing anything or if we've mislabeled stuff as important or not important.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for putting this up. And I can run by a few folks and get some feedback. Thank you. That was a good exercise to go through. And I feel like we're off to a really good start with that. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. And at some point, we'll probably want to break these out into individual tickets and prioritize them, which we will talk about a little later.
Sounds good.
Cool. Any other points people want to bring up on foundation website content before moving on to the really exciting stuff?
Nothing for me.
come on.
Not that the foundation's not exciting.
Yeah, I was going to say the foundation website content is super exciting.
But y'all, we have code now.
You made me install Yarn to install because of this website.
It doesn't require Yarn to run, but
It totally does.
It's in the docs. Oh, does it?
Really? Yeah, it fails hard.
If you don't.
It just gives you an error.
I'm gonna have to look at that because that's unfortunate. Oh well. I linked to the wrong thing in the docs there. So moving right along, we're gonna take a look at a closed ticket, which is actually linked wrong in the meeting issue. This is issue 296 in Node.js admin. So we popped open an issue to go and make the new Node.js website prototype repository. And lo and behold, it got created. So we have a home to start iterating on website redesign, well, the code for it now, which is beautiful. So another quick refresher, we are tracking towards a February 12th date to get just the learn page content out there. Oh, we have another attendee here. Hello, Luna. There we go. Awesome. We're tracking towards a February 12th date to get website, the learn page up there. I had a prototype running in a personal repository. It's now been pulled into the Node.js org, so it is official now. So we'll be iterating in this repo on the content and on the display of it. There is a, let me get the link here. You can see what this thing renders out to at nodejs-redesign.surge.sh. It's not going to live here forever. This is literally just so we can show people what it looked like to get the repo created. But inside, it's a Gatsby project. It's a proof of concept of just pulling in and dumping out all of the documentation content onto one page. And so obviously there's a little bit of work here to do, but the pipes are flowing, and all the content gets spat out here. Miles is working to get hosting set up for this, kind of a currently temporary, but we'll see where it goes after they talk to the build and release working groups, set up on Google Cloud Build. And he'll have more information on that after he gets approved, probably for next meeting, after he gets approval and gets all this spun up. But presumably, whenever something's pulled into master, we'll see it automatically deploy to the Google Cloud Build servers. And whenever he's hoping to get it so that whenever you put forward a pull request, it'll automatically deploy that branch to a temporary URL, so you can see a preview of the site as well. So we're going to have a pretty nifty CI/CD process for this repo, which I'm pretty psyched for. We have Adam Argyle, who I got to chat with a little bit this last week and unfortunately couldn't make this call, who's helping us turn the learn page. Sorry, I'm doing like a brain dump of everything we talked about last time. But this first page that we're putting together is going to be this learn page, which I just linked to the Envision app. And for people following along, it's linked to the Envision app is linked to an issue 296 of Node.js admin. We're just going to be building out just this learn page, which should look familiar. It looks like that surge.sh link that I posted in there with just all the documentation content, but made a little prettier. Adam's working on making this into a nice single pager that will not just have documentation content, but look pretty and look like Node as well. So we can get it rolled out. He'll be handing over a higher fidelity mock of that pretty soon so we can get things updated. But there's also a lot of work we can do in the meantime until we get that single pager design, which I'm hoping we'll have probably this weekend. Yeah, so that's kind of the current direction we're heading in, or like what's been done and kind of the direction we're starting to move in. Any thoughts or opinions from people called in right now? Otherwise, we can talk about like what work actually needs to get done to get there for February 12th.
I just wanted to say that I actually met Adam Argyle last week at a small meetup in New York, and I didn't realize he was the one that was going to be working on this, but that's awesome. Yeah. Super happy.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting him in person sometime too. Next time I'm over in New York.
He actually lives in Seattle. So if next time you're up in Seattle, yep.
I'm going to be there in April. I'll give him a
cool
thing. That's good. That's very good to know. Cool. Yeah, so there's a good chunk of stuff that we need to do to the site itself before that we can actually do before we even get to making it look nice. Which honestly, it's text formatting and a sidebar. So I'm hoping the make it pretty part will be pretty straightforward. So to kind of support this work inside the website prototype repo, I've made us a project board where we can track towards that February 12th deadline we have. So I've seeded it with a couple tickets here. There's gonna be more as I find time to start making new tickets for what we should track against. Everybody feel free to make tickets if you see the need and drag it to the project board. I'm hoping to use project boards pretty heavily for the website prototype, since we're gonna have a series of different deadlines I'm hoping to keep to. So hoping to keep it pretty well organized. But the two tickets currently in there are the glitch integration with the getting started content, which Poch is working on. And we need to get a status update on him from fairly soon. And then the other kind of meaty thing that we need is there's Right now, it literally just dumps all the getting started content out onto a single page, which isn't pretty and isn't how we want to present it. Before we even get design specs for the sidebar and the navigation, we can make it functionally work. So there's work to be done to kind of pick apart the data that's getting ingested, render out a sidebar with all the top level items, and make it so when you click on it, it just swaps out the page and the main content. That's kind of the big meaty thing we can do right now without mocks. And it's also a great first issue for people to start getting familiar with Gatsby and the setup here. So I'd love to offer that ticket up to anybody who's looking to contribute back and get their hands dirty in code finally.
I might see if I can do it, but I don't want to commit. So like I might try and just submit a PR, and then if I don't get to that before y'all do, sorry if I'm dropping out, my internet's not great. If I don't get to that before y'all do, please go ahead and take that.
Awesome. That I'm gonna make the promise / not threat, but please save me from myself. If we don't get to it by probably Tuesday, if somebody else doesn't get to it by Tuesday of next weekish, I'll probably just pop in and knock it out. But I would love the extra hands on it. So yeah, feel free to claim that ticket as your own. Just leave a comment and say I got this if you want to commit to it, and we'll make it happen. Yeah. And as for other work on the site itself, we need I need to loop back in with, we don't need that quite yet. I really want to track just for the 12th. I think we're going to be blocked on the single page design after that, because honestly, that's kind of the only, there's work to be done for copy editing, I suppose, on the content. So we need to do a scrub, and I'll actually make a ticket for this right now. We need to do a scrub of the content to make sure that the voicing is appropriate for the format it's in.
Do we have guidelines for that for people to, or is it just kind of our best?
There's guidelines for it, but it's also kind of best judgment. There's still some places in the docs as committed where Flavio was using first person, I. Gotcha. So it just some basic copy editing, like keep it sounding like a documentation website and not an opinion piece. It's not like he did a large effort to make sure that to convert a lot of that stuff. So it's just a couple places where it was missed, or where it just sounds a little funky. So we're going to want to tweak that. There's also some like probably nice to have type of features. Like I really like that it starts with a brief history of Node.js, and we could probably do something to make this timeline a little more styled, a little nicer, which we could play with. But those are nice to have follow-ups. Yeah, so I'm actually going to throw a ticket into the project board for content scrub. Not what I want. There we go. You can promote these things to issues. Yep, right in line. Nifty. Preview. Let's live here. Awesome. Okay, so that just got created as issue number 3 in website prototype. and it would be great to assign it to somebody who'd be interested in going through that. So we'll.
Yeah, Adam, I'm happy to take a pass at that.
Awesome.
If it makes sense for me to just take a look at it. And I mean, it sounds like it's, just general copy editing type thing. So I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that would be absolutely wonderful. Yeah, here's the issue. I just threw it in the chat. So you can either do it, feel free to do it in whatever format is probably easiest for you. You can either do it just reading through the website and making notes of where it needs to change, or like if you're comfortable with the markdown view inside of GitHub, you can sift through that other documentation link in there. But yeah, feel free to do it in whatever format feels best.
Sure. And deadline is?
Well, deadline would be before the 12th. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I can do it before the 12th, but okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Every task that we have here, the deadline is the drop dead deadline is the 12th.
Okay.
And everything we're talking about is driving towards that. So, especially for copy editing, like copy editing is not going to block any other features we're hoping to roll out, but it should. Yeah, we can get it in anytime between now and then. So.
Excellent.
Cool. Thank you for jumping on that, Rachel. It's amazing. Sweet. Other than that, we have just one other issue in website redesign that has been getting some activity. Just kind of this continued discussion about tech stack consideration. However, we're moving ahead pretty forcefully with the Gatsby at the moment. And I think especially for the 12th date we're hoping to hit, it's not tenable to switch frameworks at the moment. And honestly, looking at Mohit, I think your comment there is accurate. Like Docosaurus doesn't have that federated. Sorry, this is issue 107 in the repo. Docosaurus doesn't seem to have that kind of federated pull-in content from a bunch of different sources model. And that issue that was linked to in response for adding that functionality seems to just be like linking out to other locations. So yeah, Docosaurus is great, I think, for like single standalone projects that aren't pulling in from all different locations. However, I kind of want to take this ticket and evolve it into an outstanding question of how we should host, like what our longer term plan is for hosting API documentation. Because there's no reason why that needs to live in a giant single page app. Like that can be generated into a bunch of individual HTML pages and call it a day.
And I mean, also on top of that, we currently, I would prefer not to degrade the experience that we already have, which like is a single static page. So there, I don't think there's actually any JavaScript loaded. There might be for the syntax highlighting. There's individual pages for each section and for each actual like subsection, I believe. And then there's also the JSON view, which is basically a parsable edition of the docs.
Yeah. So my kind of hope in the medium term for API docs is we literally just reskin what's already getting built, which I think is it just spits out a whole bunch of HTML files.
Yeah, it does.
And so we can reskin it for a version of it so that we have the same nav. It has the same look and feel, but it's still just hosted HTML content. I think for the main site, like we're hoping to do enough extra stuff that it makes sense to have the extra infrastructure of a single page app for pulling in content from Contentful, for Foundation-esque material, for the community page where we probably want to start listing some of these meetups that we're starting to like we have a doc running of meetups in your area now. It would be great to get that displayed in a nicer way. So there's enough to warrant an SPA for that content, but we can kick out to a truly static like
Yeah.
straight up HTML on a file server for
And I mean,
API docs.
with the nice part about Gatsby is they expose all of their content via GraphQL, so you can actually just basically have another build step that will, you build the SPA and then you can kick it out to another build step of, okay, now go build the docs in a static site that doesn't need this deeper level of infrastructure. And so you can run one command to get it all, which would be nice.
Yeah, and we'll need to play. There's some like architecting we're going to need to figure it out in this website prototype repo to make that happen. I know a few other open source documentation sites just went the mono repo route. So it's possible that we can, in this one location, have pretty well-defined projects that, like, this one just builds the API documentation. This one is just the Gatsby site. And we have something to unify it together that'll spit out the production thing that we, actually get up onto a web server and host. At the end of the day, it's all static content, whether you run, whether it's JavaScript or not. So there's nothing more complicated than that, at least. But we can get kind of clever with that separation of concerns. It'll be interesting. If anyone's interested in coming up with a few proposals for how we could approach that, feel free to open up an issue with a few ideas on where we can go with that. Because there's also some really cool stuff we can do with the API documentation page that, depending on where we want to take the API docs and what data we have available for us, and like in the longer term, I don't really know what makes sense best for that. But there's, if you go look at like the Scala API docs, there's a whole bunch of functionality baked in for searching and cross-referencing, and that might be helpful to bring to this project piecemeal, slowly but surely.
For sure.
Yeah. So I'm gonna update in issue number 107 for tech stack consideration. Just kind of all those ideas thrown out there. I'm also going to invite Frederick to come and hang out in the website redesign meetings if he can make it, because like he has so much historical context on all the website stuff. It would be amazing to have in here, and actually has already been helpful with like trying to figure out scoping for how the heck I18N is going to work. So we need a spin-off meeting with Ben and folk to talk details about that. So you might want to actually, when in doubt, make an issue for it, right? I'm gonna make a new issue for just for me to make a new or make a meeting, a spin out meeting for I18N work. Create an I18N spin out meeting. Do talk shop. Awesome. Cool. That's now issue number 4 under website prototype. And I'll sign it to me. It's literally just a reminder to make a meeting. So awesome. That's technically all the stuff on our agenda. I think a lot of what we have to do now is just execute and keep working towards that February 12th date. Yeah. Anybody else have topics they want to bring up? Otherwise, we can get you a half hour back.
Good. I guess one thing we maybe should just suggest before we hop off is, like, anyone who wants to work on the website eventually, go check out the Node.js /website prototype repo, and then clone it, install it, and play with it. Yeah. Commit PRs, make it better.
Totally. So. Go get your hands dirty. It's it's a really fun setup too. Like the README right there is it's pretty straightforward. Good directions on how to get it spun up. Apparently you do have to use Yarn. I'm sorry, Tyranny, but otherwise, okay. Yeah, just dive in and start thinking about how we can improve it.
And it's a great opportunity to learn Gatsby too.
That's true.
Yep. That's what I'm looking at.
Awesome. Well, with that, we'll call that a meeting. Yeah. Thank you all so much for calling in. Thank you, everybody on the YouTube for listening.
Bye.